Well, good evening. It is Monday, August 19th, 2024. Welcome to episode 76 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. And as the name would imply, or the title would imply, a change is coming. And not only a change with this channel, but a change in a lot of things that are going on in the world. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And we decided to jump on a little bit early because we are trying to get to bed a little bit earlier, and it just makes it a little bit easier if we happen to be a little long-winded, or should I say, should I be a little long-winded and take this thing beyond where, it generally goes. But we're on tonight at 5 p.m. And it's good to be back on. How are you doing, Rebecca?
Good. I would say that this week has been kind of a week of highs and lows for me. I lost a piece of expensive equipment and was really concerned about that. However, it was still under warranty, so a replacement is coming back free. Yay for me.
Right.
I have keys they're house keys. They're on a key ring that is super sweet, but it has a strong magnet in it. So if you set it down to anything that is metal, it will jump and cling to it, and you think you've lost them. So I thought for a while that I lost the house keys, the gate key, the keys to everything except for the vehicle. But luckily I found those. So there was the high in that, there was the low, and there was the high in that.
Right.
We had our youngest granddaughter overnight for the first night, and she did better than any of us had anticipated she would do. She slept all night. She ate well. So that was a high. That was very exciting.
Right. Yeah, that's super cool. It's pretty cool to, get an opportunity to see our next generation come along. We're pretty fortunate because we did have kids so young that we're able to actually spend time with our grandchildren and get an opportunity to maybe learn who they are and know who they are, and they'll know who we are, which I think, unfortunately, for people who tend to wait a little later, that's kind of something that they may not get the opportunity to do. So I'm pretty stoked on it and fortunate that we get a chance to see our 7 grandchildren as often as we do. So that is super cool.
It is. I know that I didn't have the option to have grandparents because I was born late. My mom was 38 when she had me. So my older siblings got to know our grandparents, but I never got to know them. And so it's kind of a loss.
Yeah, I'm about 50% of what you're saying right there. I never got a chance to meet either of my grandfathers. They were both dead, but both of my grandmothers were alive. And it's just, they were a lot older, because my mom had me as well, kind of late. I was a late accident, if you will, but I'm glad that she had that accident. And
she says you're not an accident.
Well, that's what she
says
she has to say now.
Surprise.
Surprise, yeah.
I, on the other hand, was an accident.
Right. Yeah, so some of the things we're going to talk about tonight, we've got liberal and conservative as usual. We're going to have clip of the week, which I can almost assure it's going to piss some people off. So if you're triggered easily, stick around for that. Or maybe if you don't want to get pissed off, you can tune out before we conclude tonight, but that's going to be toward the end of the broadcast. And then, I wanted to ask some questions because I am an inquisitive person, and I had some questions regarding, why. And one of the things that I actually spoke on out in Tennessee, I went back to Nicole's workshop and I spoke on content creation. And one of the things that I know as a content creator who's been creating content since 2012, this is something that I relayed in my talk. I said, one of the most important things that you need to understand and know is what's the reason why you're doing something. And, back in 2012 on up around 2018, I started to lose my focus or lose my reason why I was doing what I was doing on social media, on my Instagram channel. And so then I just stepped away for a couple of years. And it was a needed break for me. I think it kind of reinvigorated my passion for participating in that. And then also my passion for that portion of my life as far as from the athletic standpoint. And so I wouldn't say that right now I'm in that position here on YouTube, but I will say that there's going to be a change that will be coming toward this channel with regard to how I've been uploading content. And, one of the things that I really enjoy doing, it's probably my favorite part of doing this YouTube thing, is just doing this, coming on here and having a live stream discussion for whoever wants to listen, for whoever wants to come and participate and join us. That's what I like doing because it's unscripted and it's real. And the rest of it, on the other hand, is something that actually requires effort and work. And so I do what I do in that regard because it's something that I am committed to doing. But anything that you're committed to, there's always an ebb and flow to your enthusiasm as it relates to anything that we do. And so I guess in the long and the short of it is not that I'm going to be changing much other than the fact that I am probably not going to hold myself to the same standard that I have held myself to for almost 2 years now, which is to upload a long form video every Saturday. So what I will probably wind up doing is continue doing these live streams, and maybe in place of doing those is maybe add a few more shorts in, and then add a long form when I feel that it's appropriate. But I also feel as though that it's, if I'm searching for content to put out there just to put out content, it starts to feel, I guess, forced, if you will. It starts to feel like an obligation, and it starts to feel like a job. And to me, that's not what this is. This whole YouTube thing that I'm doing, this isn't like something that I'm doing because I need the side hustle, or I need to build a business, or I need to do it. I'm doing it because I enjoy it. And I enjoy teaching people. I enjoy sharing information. I enjoy being creative. And so those are the reasons why I do it. I'm still passionate about that. But as I said, as you start to navigate through the highs and lows of content creation, because you're going to have that as a creator, you're going to have that in anything that you do in life. Nothing, generally speaking, is a straight linear line. There's going to be periods where things come in and out of your life, and that's just the reality of it. So I'm going to just be making that change, and I'll just let you guys know that up front. So if you don't see a long form video, and if that's something that you've come to expect on a Saturday, you'll know the reason why. But it's been cool, man. This whole week, I was able to get in a race. I went down Saturday. I ran a race down in the Bay Area, and it's always good when things go good. In preparation for these type of events, it's the whole process of training and then mentally preparing and then executing. That's what we do in life, right? And so the whole process of putting that together on race day and having it come out successful is really kind of what you're looking for. And that's what I was able to do. I was able to go down there and have a really good day. I paced myself accordingly. I never really hit any lows. I was very consistent. I moved up through the field all day, and then I was able to close the last 10 miles really strong. And so I went from about 153rd. By the first checkpoint, I was 153 out of about 280 participants. But by the end, I dropped it down I was down to 114th. So I steadily picked people off all day and kept advancing forward in the field. And so I can't really ask for much more than that. I just want to be somebody who's, able to get the most out of myself. I'm not ever going to be winning races. I'm not ever going to be the guy that's out front. But if I can do my best, that's what it's all about. And I feel really good about that effort. So,
well, unbeknownst to me, apparently I ran the race too.
Yeah, there was
and I beat him.
yeah, there was a Rebecca Johnson in the field. So I didn't know that, or I would have really been running harder because, yeah. But anyhow, let's see, Debra. Yeah, it needs to be fun for you too. I absolutely love your buy and jar chicken videos. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. I mean, that's what it's going to be. You know, we're going to do this because we want to do it. It's not like there's any obligation here. And so when we do it, it's because we want to do it and not because, you know, we feel like, oh, we've got to get this out. And I think that that's where people run into problems, you know, in this thing. I mean, you gotta have a passion for what you're doing, and you got to be able to fit everything in your life at the appropriate time. And so I'm not gonna push things to the point where I feel like this is some kind of job for me or something, because it's not. It's purely just me having fun and me sharing information. So I appreciate that. Let's see here. Let me see here. Yeah. So along the lines of content, I spoke last week about this short that I'd put together, kind of just a stupid little short, right? 15-second thing. I didn't really put a lot of effort into. I just kind of, hey, this is what I do. This is how I catch mice. And then I had this, you know, system that I use for catching mice in a bucket. And so I posted about it. I mentioned it last week, and at this time last week, and at the time it had 300 and, you know, something thousand, 340,000, 80,000, something like that. And that video was doing quite well. And then so from that time to now, it's over 1 million views. And the video is one of my damn near top earning videos. It's earned me about $225 for a 15-second short. And I've got videos that have been out for nearly 2 years, some of my better performing videos that may have made 350 full length videos that took me a while to build and a while to do. And it's just a very interesting thing that, you know, you don't really put any effort into something like that. And then it turns out to be this thing that you hadn't anticipated. And I guess that's, you know, somewhat emblematic of life, but it's also somewhat emblematic of maybe sending the wrong message to people. Because if content creators think that, you know, you can be successful or you can get a bunch of subscribers and money and, you know, all of that from just putting little effort into something, as opposed to some of the other content that you put a lot of effort into maybe, and it doesn't get as much. It's just kind of interesting how that plays out. But YouTube is obviously sending this to a lot of people, and people are responding to it. And I think it's kind of funny because it's one of those types of videos that gets people fighting in the chat. And then it's a lot of people want to go to the comment section to see what other people have said. And it's just, I'm not even trying at this point to keep up with the comments. I used to always do that. I mean, I had a video that had 6 million, you know, it was a short that had over 6 million views. And I answered every fucking one of those comments. And in this one, I'm not even trying. I'm not even worrying about it. And in fact, I'm actually trolling a lot of the people that are there because it's just ridiculous. But I'm having fun with it, and we're going to move on. Maybe I should just create shorts from now on. I don't know. Maybe that's the key, right?
I don't know. They ask some pretty silly questions.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's very redundant and repetitive. And, you know, you just deal with that as a content creator. You don't let it get underneath your skin or whatever. But sometimes you just scratch your head and go, man, I can't believe these people haven't seen the guy that's right before them ask the same exact question, and they could have just like saw the answer or whatever. But it's pretty interesting. So anyhow, let's jump into liberal or conservative. And this question goes out to anybody that might want to think about if this is a liberal or conservative. And I will ask you the question, Rebecca. And it says that the quote goes as such: farming looks mighty easy when your plow is a pencil and you're 1,000 miles from the cornfield. Who do you think, liberal or conservative?
I'm going to say conservative.
Yeah, you'd be right. It came from a president. It was Dwight D. Eisenhower said that. So it makes a lot of sense, man, because in other words, unless you've lived a thing, unless you've lived it, you don't know as much as you think you do. And that kind of applies to a lot of the people in the comment section of that short, where they're like telling me, hey, this is how you're supposed to do it. Hey, it's never going to work. You're going to, it just isn't going to work. But many of those people, probably keyboard warriors that have never done any of this. And then, of course, they've got the answers. But yeah, farming looks mighty easy when your plow is a pencil and you're 1,000 miles from the cornfield. Dwight D. Eisenhower.
So you could say the same thing about parenting. If you have no children, people love to give you advice and think that it's easy. And here's a simple answer to it, but they've never dealt with the situation. So
sure, I've seen a number of people kind of get on their high horse about that kind of thing where, oh, this is how you're going to, this is what you're supposed to do. And it's like, you don't even have any kids. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, very much the same thing.
And children are very individualized too. What works for one doesn't necessarily work for the other.
Right. 100%. So what would you say about yourself? Are you somebody who questions authority, Rebecca, or is that in your nature? Because how I view myself, I absolutely am somebody who questions authority. What would you say about yourself?
I would say that I definitely do. I had a mother who probably instilled that in me. And I wouldn't say that I did when I was younger, but as I get older, I see more and more of her in me. And she always, if it was change, if it was being late, if anything, she questioned everything. I don't know if I've ever told you about this incident where she was speeding. We were coming home from a swim meet and she got pulled over by a police officer who was also pulling over the person in front of her, told her to pull over and wait. And I just remember this conversation very vividly. So he goes on to pull over the car in front of her. My mom makes a U-turn and starts back the other way. So he then has to let go of the person in front, tells that person to wait, turns around to re-pull her over again. And then I listened to her. She goes, oh, I thought you just wanted me to get out of the way. Just charming, trying to talk her way out. Anyway, simple story, but.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually had parents that I would say didn't really question authority much. They were of the belief that you believe in the system, you follow the rules, you kind of keep yourself on the straight and narrow path and, live their entire adult lives in that vein. And I don't know where I got my kind of rebellious streak or my inquisitive nature to know the reason why certain things are happening and not just accept them for, what people tell me. I'm, I guess, skeptical of those who want to position themselves as an authority figure just by nature. Maybe because I've worked in an industry where we are expected to be an authority figure, and I know how incompetent a lot of people within those bureaucracies can be. So I don't just arbitrarily and automatically trust the institutions. And I think over time, as I've aged, I've been able to see maybe with clearer eyes some of the things that I thought were true when I was younger. And then now I see that those aren't exactly what I believed, or it's not even something that I still hold the belief of. And so I don't know. It's interesting because I was having a conversation with somebody who was an older person, and we were talking about the election, and we were talking about the state of things and election integrity and the state of the country. And things surrounding that, much of which we've talked about already on this channel. And we were kind of at odds as to, my position is one that suggests I don't think that our system is infallible. I think that our election process is tainted. And I don't think that I have confidence that all the votes are being counted accurately. I'll just say that out loud. However, the other person seemed to believe, oh, no, there's nothing. They're all being counted correctly. And, I don't know what leads them to believe that, but it's just interesting how people can have two diametrically opposed positions. And I think a lot of it is based on where you get your influences from, where we get our media, right? Sources we tend to believe. That's the largest part of it. But how can a person who's fully grown and seen things progress in this country, seemingly admitting that things are not great and are declining, but yet want to stay in the same mindset of, oh no, there's nothing wrong here. There's nothing going on with the election. They're telling us that it's this, and I further went on and had the discussion that so much to the point that I didn't think that we were that much of the United States of America. I think we are in principle. I think many of us want to be patriots. And I think middle America wants to be united and together and, with their common neighbor, because we have so much in common, but we've really been fractured and we've been, torn apart, and it's all by design. And, I don't know, the person happened to be of the silent generation. And we did a episode on here talking about the different generations. And the silent generation goes from 1928, if you were born between 1928 and 1945. And how those people got their name, the silent generation, is because they pretty much didn't, they were very much aligned with conformity. And they didn't really go against the grain of what the establishment said. They just kind of kept their face pointed forward, and they went to class and they went to the factory, and then they came home and they just colored in between the lines. And so it's interesting to think that there's, people of the silent generation who still just believe what they believe, despite all of the things that we've seen to the contrary, to give most people question. A lot of people have question about the integrity of things in our country, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know. What do you think about that, Rebecca?
I would agree with you. Now, on the other hand, my parents were of the, I think, the greatest generation. Mm-hmm. And so I was raised, even though my siblings are, as I said, much older than I am, I was raised with the beliefs from back then. So there's a huge difference between our upbringing. Mm-hmm. That puts that gap. So,
well, I mean, we're only 4.5 years apart. You act like
I know what I mean is that I'm raised like my sibling who is 16 or 17 years older under those beliefs. So that's the gap that I'm talking about.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. What's up, Bill Warner? How are you this evening? Yeah, and I was trying to have the conversation with the person, and it was more probably best that I didn't, because you know how that goes when people have their minds made up. It generally gets contentious, and you believe what you believe and the other person believes what they believe, and so we just kind of let it go with that. But I think one of the reasons why here was my point to them, as I said, that I don't think it really matters in the federal election, because they're going to do what they're going to do. And the reason why what I said is the system is going to allow you to vote for your local librarian, your local sheriff, your local school board. They're going to allow you to put in your state senator and your, representative for Congress and all of those minor elections. But the reason why the federal election for president is such a big prize, and it's the reason why I don't think that they're going to allow Donald Trump to be president. And this isn't about whether or not a candidate gets more votes than another, or they win a particular precinct or a county or any of that. It's about what the establishment will allow. And the reason why it's such a big deal is because you have three co-equal branches of government, right? You've got the legislative branch, you've got the judiciary or the judicial branch, and you've got the executive, all of which are supposed to be co-equals to balance each other out. But you've got 535, I guess it is, congressmen. You've got 100 senators, right? Mm-hmm. You've got 12, or no, what is it? 9 judges in the Supreme Court, right? Yes, nine judges.
Yes, because I believe they'd like to.
Yeah,
they want to add like 2 more or 3 more or something like that.
Right, but whatever. Anyway. I mean, it's the numbers thing, right? You've got many people you have to manipulate. But when you have the executive branch, you really only have the oligarchy, the people that are actually the puppet masters. They only have one person and the stroke of a pen through executive order to pass all of these things around all of those other branches. And that's something that's been going on in this country for a long time. Now, it is something that is a provision in the United States Constitution that it doesn't really give them the power to do explicitly executive orders, but they've got the ability to do it because it says something to the effect that the executive power shall be vested in the President of the United States. And then the sections that apply says that, powers and duties of the president, including he shall take care that all laws be faithfully executed. And so through kind of a way that they've been doing it since the beginning of time, they are passing these executive orders. And so here's a did you know for this week. Did you know that there is only one president in the history of our country who has not issued an executive order? Did you know that, Rebecca? Go ahead and say no, because you didn't, right? Did you know that? Or yes?
It kind of rings a bell, but I'm going to say no.
Yeah. I did not know that. I think the only reason you may have known that is because I think I said something to you about it already.
I think it's something that I read.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, it is the case. And you have to go all the way back to, most people might think, hey, maybe it was George Washington. Nope. He's issued executive orders as well. And so it is William Henry Harrison, who was the 9th president of the United States. Every other president has issued executive orders, and many of them kind of go outside of Congress. And, unless there's something that there is, an illegality, they're just permitted, essentially. And so every president generally issues like hundreds of those things. So, anywho, what do you think about that?
I think our system is very, very broken.
Yeah, but whose fault is that? I don't know. Is it the people's fault for allowing it? Because I keep hearing people say that. But what are the people to do, I guess, is the question. How do we go about doing this in the right way legally without violence to make amends for something that has completely been perverted to the point where the people don't have a voice? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know either. I know that we kind of talked about this a little bit, where if people could realize that regardless of what you believe, we are all more alike than we are different. And if we were able to all stand together and hold firm, but having that actually happen
Right.
is close to zero. So
Right. Well, that all kind of falls apart when, we're being played with the propaganda like we spoke about last week. I think that I have a belief, and I think a lot of people have a belief. There's a guy that I've played for you guys before on this broadcast. He's some Muslim dude, and he's no fan of, I guess, the United States. I don't really know what his allegiance is to, but some of the things that he talks about, I tend to agree with some of the things that he's saying. And so maybe you disagree, maybe you agree, but in any respect, I'm going to play this and you make the decision for yourself if this is something that you think there's any truth in, or you think, hey, this dude's full of shit. No, he's all washed up. It's wrong. But I align with what he's saying. And like I say, I'm just trying to spit some truth here because I think there's a lot of people running around with flags and shit in their truck and doing the thing, right? Doing the rah-rah thing. But that's really not how this country runs. I don't know if people understand that yet. It's all about the money. It's all about the influence. Joe Biden is just a puppet. Kamala Harris is just going to be a puppet. And here's the thing. The establishment doesn't care really who they have. They don't care if it's George Bush or another guy, Barack Obama. They really don't care. The establishment, the oligarchy, they really don't care. In fact, that actually works to their advantage because it keeps the fallacy going longer, keeps people at bay, thinking, oh, we're getting our side back in there. But have you ever noticed how your side doesn't really speak for you, regardless of whether or not you're a Republican or a Democrat? Have you ever noticed that? Mm-hmm. They always do the same damn thing. They tell you what they think you want to hear to get you to engage your short-term memory. Like, oh, they say they're going to lower prescription costs for Medicare. Oh, they're going to do this. They're going to close the border, or they're going to do this. Well, the establishment is not going to do that. The establishment is going to do what the oligarchy, the people with the actual money, want done. And so they're okay if it's Mitt Romney or Barack Obama or John McCain or somebody else, Nikki Haley. They'd be completely fine with Nikki Haley, the oligarchy. But what they're not okay with, they're not okay with an outsider like a Trump or a Bernie Sanders. Case in point, I'll be showing you that here in a minute. But check this out.
Divide and conquer. I mean, if you wonder why American society is so divided, I mean divided in so many ways. It isn't just that the divides are deep, it's that the divides are so many. Black and white, race against race, advocates of this issue against opponents of this issue, even men against women and women against men. There isn't a single category within that society that doesn't have some corresponding nemesis. It's just divide and conquer, playing out domestically. And Democrats and Republicans is just another one of these divisions, because the country has been conquered by corporate economic imperialists. Look, I don't care who you vote for in November, because power doesn't care who you vote for in November. I've said it before. If you imagine that unelected power of the private sector is going to entrust the public with deciding how things are going to be run and who's going to run things, then you're living in a fantasy. It's absurd. America has subverted, sabotaged, and strangled democracies all around the world. They've been interfering with, tampering with, rigging elections across the globe for decades, from Haiti to Honduras, from Italy to Iran, from Syria to South Africa. They've toppled governments, assassinated elected officials, fixed elections, bribed and bullied and bulldozed democracies on every continent for a century. They don't think that any population in any country in the world can be trusted to elect leaders who will safeguard the interests of the American elite. So what makes you think that they're going to trust you with that power?
So there you go. Whether you disagree or agree with any of that, I think it's kind of hard to argue that the money isn't what's running things in Washington. It's not really your representative that you've sent there, your representative from your district or your state. They're there trying to have their little seat at the table, but they have to play ball in order to have any leverage of power there. They have to whore themselves out and do things that you didn't vote them to do in order for them to have any way to bring some pork back to you in your district. You know, I mean, it's pretty clear that we have somebody running the country right now, but it's not the guy that most people see on paper as running the country, right?
Correct.
I mean, I don't know who's really disputing that. I guess there's people that are those true believers, the silent generation, who are just going to keep their head straight forward and say, well, you know, the debate was horrible. He really looked bad. He needs to go because he's like incompetent. And we've actually kind of known that, but now we're going to say it out loud. And then it's cool to have him there for another 6 months while things are happening around the world and policy needs to be advanced. You know, it's pretty interesting. I've been hearing Kamala saying all the things she's going to do on day one. Well, why the fuck isn't she doing that now? Why isn't she talking to her boss and saying, hey, let's do this now? What are you waiting for? Don't you think that'd be a good move? But see, here's the problem. Some people are stupid and they're just going to sit by and say, well, gee, things are going to be different on day one. No, they're not, because you really don't have a seat at the table. It's just clear to me, that's the way it seems. And so I didn't feel that way years ago. I was a believer. I went down and got my sticker. You know, I voted. And I'm going to vote this time. You damn well bet I'm going to vote this time. I feel as though it's in some way my small token of what I can do other than vote with my dollars. That's where the real power exists, if you want to know the truth. And to your point, Bill Warner, where you said money talks and BS walks, that's the God's honest truth, man. That's really the one place that you do have some power and some ability to make some change, is how you spend your money and who you spend it with. That day is, though, rapidly disappearing, you know, as the digital age comes a little clearer into view. That's another lever of power and control that they're working feverishly toward. And, you know, what will usher that in is an economic collapse of sorts. And then people will be freaked out, many of which will probably go put their masks back on because they're going to shit themselves because they haven't done anything to prepare themselves for the future. They live paycheck to paycheck and then want to blame that on somebody else. I understand people have problems, but people need to take responsibility for their own lives and not look to others to do that for them. That's called prepping 101. We all have choices to make, and many people make poor choices and they look to others for solutions. I'm not that person. So anyhow, that was a kind of a little diatribe there, wasn't it? Kind of on one again.
Mm-hmm. I'm just here to listen.
Oh, please. Come on. Chime in. Come on, guys. You're awful quiet in the chat. We must be here alone. I don't know.
On the lighter side of things, this race that Eric ran, there was a man that was 81 years old that ran the race and finished it.
I was going to bring that up when we talked about the weekly poll, which is coming up pretty soon. Pretty incredible, guys. You know, when you talk about no excuses, right? And, you know, I don't know what this person's, you know, life is like or whatever, but he's 81 years old and he ran this race and finished it in 10 hours and like 40 something minutes or whatever.
42 minutes. 42
minutes. And there was 6,500 feet of climbing. I mean, it was a freaking brutal race, man. I can't even imagine an 81-year-old walking that distance, let alone climbing stairs and ladders. And yeah, it was insane. I did not know that. In fact, there's another guy, let me just sidetrack here. Another guy that I know down there is a black dude. Don't see too many black dudes that are ultra runners. So when you see one, you're kind of like, hey man, what's up? You know? And I met this dude a while ago, and his name's Errol Rocket Jones. He lives in Oakland, in Oaktown. And he's kind of a legendary guy. He's been doing the thing for a minute, and a lot of people know him, you know, here in the Bay Area and elsewhere. And he happened to be there running. And I'm running along. It's about mile 5. We've gone up and out of the Muir Beach and coming down this hill, and I look around and he's right behind me. And I'm like, what the hell? This guy's 74 years old. And so I'm like, oh, hell no. This dude ain't gonna like beat me. And so I start like kind of picking it up. I think I'll just drop him, you know? And so I wind up dropping him, going down into Rodeo Beach. We go through the thing, up another climb and down into Tennessee Valley. This is at mile 13. And then I'm coming out of the aid station at mile 13. He's right behind me again. And I'm like, what the hell? And so we're going up Miwok, and halfway up, he passes me. And I'm like, this dude's no joke. You know, I had no idea he was like this good because he's 74, man. And I wind up, you know, hanging with him for a minute, and then I pass him, and then I never see him again the rest of the day. Long story short, I you know, beat the guy by an hour, but the fact remains is he's 74. And there was a dude who was 81. There was plenty of people that were in their 70s. And I hear people bitching all the time, oh, I can't do this, or I used to do that, or I used to do this. Yeah, you used to do a lot of things when you were young. We all did. When I was 20, I was a hell of a lot stronger than I am now. But that's no excuse why I can't be working on myself and improving myself, right? And so when I see people out like that, I think, hey, I'm 58. I go out and do this stuff, and I think, man, I'm kind of an old guy out here, you know, not really, but you know, you kind of start feeling like I'm older. And then
give in. You feel like you're an old guy out there.
Yeah, well, sometimes, yeah, I feel like an old timer when I wake up sometimes out of bed, man. But nonetheless, it's just inspiring when you see people older than you getting out there and suffering and doing the thing. And it's like, man, that person is like, Biden's 81, man. Biden can't fucking walk across the lawn. And this dude just did 31 miles in 10 hours and 42 minutes with 6,500 feet of gain. Unbelievable. I'm still blown away by it. Yeah. Super cool. But anyhow, yeah, maybe, let's see. What'd I do with the,
I didn't mean to get you off track, but I'm pretty impressed.
No, I was impressed too.
He did come in first in his age group.
Yeah. Let's jump into the weekly poll since we were there, talking about old people. And I actually put this poll out last week just because I was interested, you know, what's the age range? This is the question I put out. I said, what age range would the majority of people say old age begins with or begins at? And so, you know, I mean, that's obviously a very subjective question. It's kind of on a sliding scale, I would suspect, depending on your starting position, where you're at, you know, who's older than you or whatever. And you just kind of gauge things that way. But 341 people cast their vote. So thank you for that. And it broke down as follows. 2% said 20 to 29 is where old age begins. And the next was 4% at 30 to 39. 40 to 49 had 14%. 50 to 59 was 29% of people said. And then lastly, 60 to 69, half of the people, an actual 50% said that that's where old age begins. And, you know, interestingly enough, that is, if you ask like ChatGPT or something, that same question, it's going to come up around 70, age 70, which kind of surprises me, quite honestly, given the fact that most people die around 70. You know, I think the average age for men dying is, 74, and women are 78 or something like that, right? You're at the end of your life, man. That's not when old age begins. Sorry to tell you. But see, that's what people think. And that's fine. You can think that. It's great to think that you're young. But the reality is that, you know, you're in winter. You're in the winter of your life in 70. You just are. And so, how do you view this question, Rebecca? What would you say the age range would you say, not the majority of people, but the age range you would say that old age begins?
Okay, so I remember when I was younger. Younger meaning
long time ago.
A long time ago. I had to be, I don't know, in between the age of anywhere from 8 to maybe 12. And thinking that if I lived to 35, I would probably die at 35. So in recalling that, I would say that was old age. Old age had to have started in your 20s if you're going to die when you're 35. However, looking at myself, I noticed changes as far as like vision or seeing the crow's feet or whatnot around 45 and feeling, wow, seeing pictures and going, wow, I look old. So it's perspective.
Sure. Yeah, no, it absolutely is. I would say for myself, where I started to notice age was when, by the time I about hit 30, I would say, I realized at that point, there's no way you're going to fit in with somebody who's 20 years old. Because as a teenager, let's say I'm 15 years old, or you see somebody who's 15 years old, they see somebody who's 25 and they're ancient. They're like, oh man, that's an old person, right? And again, like I said, it's just how your perception of where you are in the sliding scale of life. And so I realized at 30, I'm no longer fitting in with 20-year-olds. I can't go to a bar and hang out with 20-year-olds, nor would I really want to. I mean, I was married to her at age 22. We started a family. So I wasn't of that mindset. I'm just saying that out of recognition, when I'm 30, I'm kind of looking back at the people that are 20 and saying, damn, they look young. I can't fit in with that. Now, it wasn't until I got into my 40s, like Rebecca said, and then I started looking in the mirror and I'm going, what the hell? what happened? You start looking at your face, things change and your body's changing or whatever. And you start really noticing those physical changes. And for me, that's not really an issue because I've never been somebody who's made my money on my good looks, right? That's not my bread and butter. I pity the people who that's their claim to fame, where they're some young hot chick in their 20s or some dude who's, whatever. And they're really stuck on their appearance. I think that those people are going to have a much harder time adjusting to reality as reality hits them squarely in the face in their 40s, right? But as far as from the standpoint of like physically, I would say I had to get into my 50s before I started noticing, man, shit's starting to hurt. My back's kind of like not feeling the same as it used to be. I'm a little bit, not a little bit, I'm significantly weaker than I was when I was 20. When you're 19, 20, 23, you're the strongest you're ever going to be in your life. You're the most vigorous you're ever going to be in your life. And I don't think a lot of youngsters realize that because as you age and you move and you progress through life, you're always fighting and battling time. So that's kind of how I've viewed it. But I've been thinking I've been kind of old for a while. And that's just the way that I look at myself because I'm trying to think about things from a reality standpoint, not like, oh, hey, I'm this young person, right? No, we ain't fucking young. We're getting up there, man. We got grandkids. We're retired folk, So
I would say it had to be about 4 or 5 years ago. My daughter did this video of her kids. And it was, for me, they each were asked questions. What did they like about grandma or various different, what do you think she eats for breakfast? Anyway, you get the picture. So the one question that was asked was, what do you think grandma eats for breakfast? And my granddaughter said oatmeal. And my daughter said, why do you think she eats oatmeal? She says, well, because she's old.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a pretty cute video. You still have that, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, it's super special. Yeah, it's pretty good.
If that doesn't crush you, it's like, all right.
Yeah.
You could stay home for like about a week.
No, I could tell that video like touched your heart. You actually were like kind of crying and stuff. It just warmed your heart seeing that. So it was a pretty cool thing to see. But
no, it was very cute.
Yeah. Yeah. Bill Warner says, I believe that old age starts at birth because the moment you start living, you start dying. Yeah. That's true, man. It's true. It's like you see babies, they are just physically like perfect little specimens, and then as we age, everything just like starts to deteriorate. So much of that is environmental. So much of that is dietary. It's absolutely the truth, man. People are poisoning themselves with the food industry right now. And there's actually a really good video that if you guys are interested at all, man, check it out. It's Tucker Carlson just did this interview with a couple of folks that are brother and sister. And it's a really good interview. They're talking about big pharma. And they're also talking about how big pharma and the powers to be have merged all of that with the food industry and how insidious it is and how it's affecting people in many ways that most people don't understand. Because as I was talking about before, remember the person that just keeps their fucking blinders on and looks straight forward and doesn't question anything? And then they just go to the store and they buy shit food that's there because, hey, it's looked at by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. It's got the stamp of approval on it. And, of course, the Food and Drug Administration, which that is an interesting merger of industries, right? The Food and Drug Administration in the same department. So, I mean, that should tell you, or at least cause people to question, what's really going on here? Maybe I should look into this because of all of the shit that's in all of this ultra processed food that people are consuming. We've knocked all of that out, and I feel fantastic. I have to say. I mean, I just do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a new me, at least for this week. No, we've been doing this diet for a couple of months now, I think, right?
Yes.
I haven't had bread or anything, man. No rice, none of that bullshit. No processed flour and, nothing, man. It's been really good. And we've been trying to get some sleep. So again, that's why we're on early tonight. So we can take our Metamucil and go to sleep.
It digs into my cooking creativity, I should say.
Yeah, well, she's, I mean, we can't eat this good going anywhere because you go anywhere to eat and it's shit food cooked in seed oil. It's just not good, man. But what's up, Elusive? Welcome this evening. Good to see you. Just here ranting a little bit. Also, you know what, man? We talked about an egg that we had last week. If you guys were here at all or you listened to the broadcast, we had this chicken that laid this small ass little egg that was 28 grams, right? And it was tiny. Well, guess what? We got another one, even smaller. And Rebecca weighed it. It was 21 grams.
Yeah.
We got to look into that, man. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I mean, it's probably a thing. There's probably something happening that I'm not aware of medically, but I'm going to look into that because these are full grown hens, man, that have been laying nice eggs all year, all summer. And now we're starting to get these little tiny ass eggs that look like quail eggs. And I think it's probably a different bird because it's different color. One was lighter and the other's kind of a darker shell.
It's a darker brown.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Maybe it's stress because they can't get into the nesting box.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Just holding on to that egg and can't.
That reminds me, I got to get that corn moved over after the live stream. But let's see here. Bill says, but as we get older, we count on the babies to take care of us when we age and become helpless. Yeah, that's, I think that would be, yeah. I don't even know, man.
I don't want my kids to take care of me. I mean,
I don't either.
I joke.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, look, you need to take care of mom when she's, but I don't.
I don't either.
What an image to leave them.
Yeah, I don't want that, man. I don't want them changing my fucking diaper or whatever if I happen to be in a diaper. In fact, I hope I don't go out like that, but you know what I'm saying? That's like not
Of course,
cool.
he has no problem with me changing it.
Well, I mean, we've been together for so long.
Leave me with that image.
Well, till death do us part, man. That's what it's all about. Let's see here. Elusive says, I had a couple of tiny eggs too. Yeah, I don't know, man. I got to look that up just because I'm curious about why that's actually happening. I thought the one was just kind of a one-off, but now that we've got two that are just like tiny little Cadbury looking things, I thought, I better figure out what's going on here. Oh, yeah. Bill says, not to physically take care of us, but you get the drift. Yeah. Yeah, no, family's great, man. I mean, it just is. That's one of the best best things that really you can do, I think. I mean, everybody's got their path in life and what some people decide not to choose to have kids. And some people, unfortunately, that want to have kids can't have kids, which I think is really sad because there's plenty of people out there that can have kids that are, aborting their kids and abandoning their kids and, not being great parents to their children. But yeah, it's fantastic, man. I mean, I can't imagine growing older and not having loved ones around you because you know what? We all have friends. We all have acquaintances. But here's the reality. 95% of the best friends that you've ever had or anybody's ever had are no longer even in your life. Think about that. How many best friends have you had growing up in school and all of those different acquaintances and things? People come in and out of your life based on convenience and opportunity and, kind of what's in it for them. And it's a lot of around proximity, somebody moves to another state. You may not really be that much in contact with them, so much, but family, it's kind of different. Some family sucks, right? Mm-hmm. Some people don't get along with their family, but that's their problem, not mine. So I think the rest of us who have strong families and realize the benefit thereof are just, we're super lucky. So
I would say that I've had a friend since the end of 8th grade. Mm-hmm. And she's still a friend of mine today. But I do agree that we had fallen apart when our distances were further apart. And for some reason, we've ended up back closer together. And then, of course, it reunites the friendship. Right. So we are still friends to this day. And
yeah.
Not as close as when we were younger. However, we do text back and forth and kind of communicate. Things change in life. My kids are a little older than hers, so my kids are out of high school. Hers were in high school. No, they're not anymore. But I mean, back in the time.
Yeah. So
it's hard. It's hard to, once your kids are out of high school, to want to go and watch high school plays or basketball games or what have you.
Yeah. It's, you have to have common interests or whatever, to be somebody who, you want to stick around with. You're my best friend and you're my longest held friend. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, we share very common interests.
Mm-hmm. So getting back to what we were talking about earlier, I was having this discussion with this person and they were saying, hey, but we really have a two-party system. We've always had a two-party system. And I said, no, not really. I said, going back in the earlier time, we had actually more than one party. We had like the Bull Moose Party. We had the Whig Party. We had the Republican Party. We had the Democrat Party. So there was some variability in other choices early on. But pretty soon, things kind of devolved into just this two-party system. And I think that's all part of speaking more toward this corporate oligarchy, this power structure that runs the nation. And so that's why they can never, again, allow somebody like Trump or Bernie to be president. And that's pretty sad because you know why? Both of those people have something in common. Politically, they really have nothing in common. Trump is very much, he's actually kind of a centrist Republican, right? He's not completely like some far right guy, right? Because he used to be a Democrat. Now he's just kind of more of a sensible, to the right politician. And Bernie, he's an admitted like, hey, I'm a socialist. But the thing that they have in common, good evening, London. Good to see you tonight.
London.
The thing that they have in common is they're both populists. And so that's why they are not permitted to play. It's okay if it's Kamala. It's okay if it's Mitt Romney. It's okay if it's one of the chosen Coke or Pepsis, but they don't want a whiskey. They don't want somebody in here who's going to disrupt things. And that's what those two guys would do. They would very much disrupt the apple cart, because they aren't bought and paid for by the corporate interests that run our country. It's not Joe Biden. Don't get mad at Joe. He's just there. The only guy that was actually doing shit that was like Trump, because he had his own ideas, and that's why they don't like him. That's why they hate him. That's why the deep state's trying to destroy him and shoot him in the face. And all of the things that have been going on surrounding this guy, apparently people just forgotten, because so much has happened to that man in the last 4 years. Even after he's out of office, they're trying to destroy him, let alone what they did while he was in office, much of which was fabricated lies. So let's take a look at this, because I think this is interesting, man. It really explains what's going on here. And it's just about the Bernie bro. Remember the Bernie bros? Remember Bernie was $27. $27, because that's what the people were donating. And he had a hell of a lot of grassroots support. In fact, this person that I was talking to was a supporter of his. And he was a populist, right? He wasn't just this establishment person, but they aligned with his socialist policies. But he got called onto the plane, remember? I've spoken about that. Mm-hmm. Obama said, no, Hillary's, you're not going to have the superdelegates, Bernie. Hillary's, it's her turn. You need to bow out, because Bernie was making a racket. He's like, they're ripping me off. They're trying to, he's starting to come out saying that kind of shit. And they're like, oh no, you're going to shut up. And there was a whole thing with Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Donna Brazile and the Hillary leaks and giving her the answers in the fucking debate and all that, right? Remember all that? I don't forget it. I remember it. But a lot of people conveniently forget things and just move on to the next shiny thing. But I'm trying to bring it back to let people know this is what really went on. I haven't forgotten. So check this out. Look at the Bernie bro.
That our election process is still democratic. Do you think it's still?
Yes and no. I mean, you want to run for office. Can you? Yeah, you can. But if you're going to win, and I have 10 times more money than you do, I will beat you 95% of the time.
Wow.
I mean, that's a fact, right?
Right, 100%.
You'll beat me. Maybe if you're really an exceptional candidate and I'm a real idiot, you will beat me once in a while. But by and large, the money people will win. So if you're asking me, are we a democracy? In one sense, we are. All right, you can run for office. You can raise your issues. On the other hand, in terms of who has the real power, money people do. And I use the term oligarchy. An oligarchy is a society where small numbers of very wealthy people control the economic and political life of the country. I think we are moving rapidly in that direction.
To me, it feels like a almost privatized communism in a way.
Right. That's a very good point. It's an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly sometimes everything of what communism is and what socialism is, but sometimes that's how it feels.
So I think Bernie's spot on with the second part of his point, saying that, the oligarchy, the people that are behind the scenes, the people that are actually the puppet masters, because, let's not forget, Joe still wanted to be president, but he was told, no, sorry, dude, step aside. We got other interests here that are looking out for the bigger picture, because you're really not the person we need right now. And it's all about puppetry, right? He's just a puppet, just like the next person they're going to install, which is Kamala, a puppet, right? She's not going to speak for herself because she really can't speak, too eloquently about any policies, because she doesn't know jack shit other than she's been there. And so she's entrenched in the thing. And if she's going to basically do what they say,
High skates, girl,
and read the teleprompter, she's a perfect puppet, right? Just like Biden was. And they're running the same script. They're hiding her to the the most that they can, trying to squeeze as much mileage out of her, just showing up on Time magazines and getting these puff pieces and stuff. But nobody's really challenging her on anything of serious consequence, because there's a lot of things of consequence in this country. And I think the American people want to hear from people who they intend on voting for. However, there are those that are just willing to choose the lesser of two evils, right? They just want to choose the lesser of two evils. And we talked about that last week. It was something that we had mentioned. It's called the false dilemma. Remember that? By presenting only two options, one of which is clearly unfavorable, which forces you into a particular choice. It's called the lesser of two evils. It's a tool used by propagandists. And that's essentially what they've done by creating this two-party system. And so when a candidate sneaks through like Trump did in 2016, that was never supposed to happen. They were shocked. Obama was shocked. He didn't think he was going to have that much support, I guarantee you. They all said it. Oh, yeah. That's one thing he won't be as president. Yeah, that's not going to happen, right? They were all just like, he's a joke. He's a joke. It was so scripted because check it out. Remember this? When Trump was trying to get the nomination, they were just like, oh, hey, this is great. Let's give him all this airtime. That he was on every show. Trump was up there saying his thing. He was getting all these free commercials run, right? Then once he got nominated, they flipped the script just like that. And it was attack. It was attack mode, just like that. And I saw that and I went, wow, that's pretty stark difference. Boy, they really showed their hand there, didn't they? Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of people have forgotten these things. See? And I think it's worth talking about because you forget your history, your recent history, and then you're doomed to repeat it. It's just a repeatable cycle. One thing that I haven't seen happen, that I was kind of hoping would happen, but I haven't received any confidence that it has, is that all of the things that gave a lot of people, probably half, if not more of the country, concern about our electoral process, none of those things have been remedied. We haven't been given any confidence as to, well, you know, that was kind of fucked up. You know, we're going to change things next time. Now the message is make it too big to rig. Who do you think's the best at that? Is it you, the American people, that are going to get out there in numbers and stand at the poll and wave your fucking flags? Or is it the people behind the scenes that have seen this coming and know that Trump's more popular and know that more people are going to vote for him? You don't think they've already figured that out? Of course they have. And so that's why I don't have any confidence in the outcome. I could be completely wrong, and I hope you guys come back and say, see, you were wrong, dude. You're just spouting off bullshit. You were all washed up. That's what I hope people say. But I don't think I am, you know.
I hold out hope that he does make it in. However, I agree. I don't think they're going to allow that.
It's too much to lose, man.
I hope that Trump is.
I hope he's not shot in the face.
Right. I hope that somehow he is able to protect himself. I know that they had brought up that he do his rallies indoors, but he likes the big crowds, and to do the big crowds, they have to be in outside stadiums. And so. Yeah.
Well, hey, this isn't a very cheery live stream, guys. I'm sorry. You know.
Not. That's why I butt in with the 81-year-old to try to lift things up.
No, and it's not getting any better, let me tell you, because my clip of the week is going to piss some people off. But people need to be reminded of some things. So there might be some liberals on here listening to this broadcast, and they're going to be pissed about what I say. But they should be pissed about what the clip of the week says is what they should actually be pissed about. But we'll get to that when we do. So this false dilemma is this presentation of the lesser of two evils, right? And so here again is you're on it, Bill. What's up, Scanes? Did I already say hi to you? Glad to see you this evening. As always, Bill says, I call that being forced to choose the lesser of two evils, right? It's that false dilemma. So here's my Muslim buddy, I guess I could call him a buddy since I keep playing his shit. There's more stuff I want to chop up from this guy because this was a pretty long video, about 12 minutes, and I've chopped the little pieces out to just kind of play them to you, but just kind of try to absorb what he says, you know, with an open mind and see if any of this resonates with you.
Kamala Harris was just appointed as the nominee. She wasn't voted for. This is straight up succession, not election. There were no primaries. She hasn't had to outline her policy platform, and no one needs her to do that. All she has to do is to not be Donald Trump. This is the logic of demonization versus policy debate as a campaign strategy. No candidate has to win your approval as long as the whole election is framed in the lesser of two evils scenario. And what's the point of that? To make the pre-programmed win seem plausible, that's all. And to not leave any opening for dissent to manifest that might make the win seem implausible. Because, for instance, if voters actually have demands of this candidate or that candidate, and the candidate fails to address those demands, then it could cast doubt upon their eventual victory. And inevitably, if a candidate does address voter demands, well, that will always end up alienating some other faction of voters. So we don't talk about issues. We don't talk about how to deal with issues. We just rally behind our party's candidate in lockstep, because the other party's candidate is literally the devil incarnate. When you're operating in the lesser of two evils framework, you're always going to have decidedly low expectations of your chosen candidate, and that's perfect when the election is already fraudulent in the first place.
Yeah. So, that's where we've been forced into, is you demonize the other side. And then so therefore, the other person, even though they're not really somebody you think is probably the best choice, they're going to look good. And in fact, this person I was talking to, I was kind of surprised about it, because I don't feel that way at all about Donald Trump, but they actually honestly felt that this, Trump was a racist. And I was like, really? Where do you get that from? Oh, well, like when his father was, they didn't rent to black people or something like that, right? And I'm thinking, well, that was his father, and that was a long time ago, if that's the case at all. I haven't really heard that from Trump at all, So it just goes to show how people can be manipulated, and their minds can be closed off to seeing the big picture and looking at alternative viewpoints. I try to listen to the other side. I try to listen to people who don't, maybe share my values, just to kind of hear what they have to say. A lot of them I don't agree with, but at least, I'm trying to be open-minded about it. And partially because I don't believe the sources that are telling me some of these things, because they've proven themselves to be a liar. And if you're getting repeatedly lied to by the same person, how willing are you going to be to go back to that same person and receive information that you are going to now look at as being credible? How stupid does that make you, if you're willing to just keep getting lied to and, looking the other way? I don't know. What do you think, Rebecca?
I'm sorry. I was reading. There's a question you need to address from London.
Okay.
And I had a question to hogs. Do you sell hogs?
Are you going completely off subject here?
It is completely off subject.
I was asking you a question.
Ask me again.
I forget now. You just screwed it up.
Sorry.
But it's all right. Let's see here. London, you're asking about foundering chickens. That I actually don't know, man. I don't. I know that they get some kind of a foot problem. I've never really had it. I know I've seen people on YouTube talking about some foot problem or whatever. It slips my mind right now. I think it's fairly common with certain breeds, but as far as foundering, that's like a horse thing. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't answer that question. I need to step out. But
okay.
Thank you, Hogs, for saying that you like the soap.
Oh, right on, man. Yeah. So you see, you got your order and planted the comfrey, and the soap smell amazing. Can't wait to try the biochar one. Right on. Yeah. I sent you some pretty fat crowns, man. Those are some bonus crowns right there. So that should take off for you in a hot minute. And that's actually what London's saying here, that the comfrey that I sold to him, it does grow fast, especially if you get crowns, right? You can get, I suppose, more bang for your buck by buying the just the cuttings. But if you're buying any cuttings, I would suspect you or suggest that you get the larger cuttings, because I'll give you a larger piece, which is just going to accelerate the growth of that particular comfrey. I mean, you'll have comfrey growing here in like no time. That stuff's going to push out. Just put it in the ground, keep it wet, and it'll be growing. And by next year, those will be like solidly where you can just divide them up and dig them up and put them wherever you want. Just you got your own comfrey factory. So right on, and I'm looking forward to seeing. I know Rebecca will want to be hearing from you as far as how that soap's working out. But it's interesting, since you just live north of us, we shipped that out, and Rebecca was like, "Oh, I should just run it up there to him. Why don't you, reach out to him?" And I was like, "Well, he already paid for the shipping, and let's just go this way or whatever." So we ship it, right? It actually went to Sacramento, south of here. It went like 2 hours south of here, and then it went north of where you're at, all the way up into Redding, and then it has to go like a half hour back to where you're at. So it's just the post office, man. It's like retarded, right? So stupid. Yeah, right on. I shipped it out the next day. So yeah, I wouldn't suspect that it took too long to get to you. But let's see here. Yeah, maybe we'll jump into that clip of the week. I will say that it's probably going to be something that you all will remember, most of you, regardless of what side of the aisle you were on, right? Whether you're somebody who got the thing or somebody who didn't get the thing. And it really aligns quite well with what we were talking about last week, propaganda, and some of the different tools that are used in order to get people to comply with whatever the propaganda happens to be. And so there's a number of different tools that they utilize, one of which is emotional appeal. So let me just read the definitions of these. And when you watch this video, you'll see exactly these tactics being used. So emotional appeal is one. Propaganda often targets emotions rather than rational thought. It may use fear, anger, or pride to influence opinions and behaviors. Next is selective information. Propagandists may present only certain facts or distort information to support their agenda. This can include omitting important details or using misleading statistics. Number 3, bandwagon effect. This technique suggests that everybody else is doing it, so you should too. It plays on the human desire to be part of the majority. Another one, name calling and labeling. Using derogatory language or labels to discredit opponents or alternative viewpoints. False dilemma. We already just talked about false dilemma, but here it is again. Presenting only 2 options, one of which is clearly unfavorable to force a particular choice. Some of those options, right, actually played out in the arena of people losing their jobs for not doing a thing. So this is from very recent history. And I wanted to play this for you because I think that it's really good not to forget our history. So whether or not left or right, if you're on the left and you were aligned with these policies and these sentiments from these people, and you actually said this yourself, you should be fucking ashamed of yourself. And if you were somebody who held the line, you should be proud of yourself.
Vaccinated. You are the problem. It is the unvaccinated who are the problem. Period. End of story.
The only people that you can blame, this isn't shaming, this is the truth. Maybe they should be shamed, are the unvaccinated.
It's time to start blaming the unvaccinated folks, not the regular folks.
Anyone you came into contact with will blame you, as will the rest of us who have done the right thing by getting vaccinated.
Because frankly, we know that we can't trust the unvaccinated.
I think it's time to get our moral house in order, Anderson. It's the unvaccinated who are the threat.
All those vaccinated folks are going to start wearing masks to protect the unvaccinated folks. It's called a Christian value.
You're basically punishing the vaccinated for the sins of the unvaccinated.
People are not behaving honorably. The unvaccinated are basically saying, well, it's open season for me. I can do whatever I want as well.
The unvaccinated are basically beating their breasts and running around the country saying, we don't care, we're living free and so forth.
We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin.
The unvaccinated, a group that includes children and people acting like children. And the rest of us are starting to get pissed off.
The vaccinated feel the unvaccinated are making me upset or angry.
This is not about freedom or personal choice.
Well, my freedom is being kind of disturbed here. No, screw your freedom.
The other day, Howard Stern weighed in with a much different approach. Take a look.
When are we going to stop putting up with the idiots in this country and just say, it's mandatory to get vaccinated? Their freedom.
But you're treading on our freedom and you're making other people sick, and really you're killing other people.
The anti-vaxxers, they seem to have a thing for death and home remedies.
The anti-maskers turned anti-vaxxers are not just putting their own lives at risk. If that was the issue, we could just say that we can watch them compete to win place or show in the Darwin Awards.
We have to start doing things for the greater good of society and not for idiots who think that they can do their own research.
And don't get me started on the lunatics who won't take any of the COVID vaccines.
Life is too short to be an ass. Life is way too short to be ignorant of the promise of something that is helping people worldwide.
Maybe you're doing it because you're disconnected or disorganized. Maybe you have some sympathetic psychological reasons. But maybe you're just being antisocial.
Oh, you can't shame them. You can't call them stupid. You can't call them silly. Yes, they are.
Those who are not vaccinated will end up paying the price.
The unvaccinated should be taxed. They should pay more for health care.
We need to start looking at the choice to remain unvaccinated the same as we look at driving while intoxicated.
We're going to see, and I've said, almost two types of America.
Dr. Fauci said that if hospitals get any more overcrowded, they're going to have to make some very tough choices about who gets an ICU bed. That choice doesn't seem so tough to me. Vaccinated person having a heart attack, yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo, rest in peace, Wheezy.
Pointing back to the unvaccinated who are really creating a problem in this country, every death that we are seeing from COVID could have been prevented.
Literally, the only people dying are the unvaccinated. And for those of you spreading misinformation, shame on you. Shame on you. I don't know how some of you sleep at night.
Yeah, I played that in its entirety because it's recent history. It's just a couple of years ago, and it's amazing to me that happened in America. It's very disheartening, quite honestly, seeing all those clips again. And it just kind of lets you know the power of propaganda and how actually weak people are. I always had this belief as recent as a couple of years ago that America was different somehow, that people here were different and a cut above. But what I've learned over the past couple of years, there's a lot of great people here. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Americans in its entirety. There's a lot of patriots here and a lot of people with backbone that make this country go, because it certainly isn't the people in Hollywood. It certainly isn't the people in the entertainment industry, in the media, the corrupt media establishment. It certainly isn't people in government that make this country what it is. It's the American people who drive the economics and drive the flavor of this country. And what's sad to me is that so many people still have blinders on. And so many people are able to be manipulated into being fearful of something that just doesn't make sense. And whether it's this or it's some other thing that will be rolled out, there's so many Americans that are just willing to just go along with what the narrative is and don't question authority. They don't ask why. And I don't know, I don't know. You didn't get a chance to watch that whole clip, Rebecca. You saw the last bit of it, but what's your thoughts on that whole period of time and what we had to witness and endure as people who decided, you know what, maybe I want to just be a little bit more reserved about taking an experimental, gene therapy and putting in my body when it hasn't been tested and it's been rushed through in warp speed. And then you're fucking demonized by people who have drank the Kool-Aid. That's essentially what's going on here. And it's so sad to me that people that are liberals, many of which maybe thought they were doing the right thing, but they also were buying into the propaganda because they could look at the other side and point their finger at them and feel like they're on the side of good and the other side is evil for their choices. You heard them saying that in that fucking clip right there. They brainwash people to think that. And I've said this repeatedly, but what these dumbass liberals don't realize is because they think they're in the club and they're not. They're only useful idiots. They're also deplorable. And they're going to be marched off just like the rest of us because we've been fractured and splintered and we're not united. So to the point from the person I was talking about earlier saying, oh no, we're the United States of America. Well, we are in principle. We are what it says on our paper money. And we are in certain places, right? This is a great country. It has a lot of potential. But as far as how this country is being run and organized by the people that want to fracture it and tear it apart from what it was originally intended to be from its founders, it's not united anymore, man. We've been put into these camps and it's been that way for years. Go back and look at the list of presidents, and all you're going to see from like the very early on is Democrat or Republican. Where's the Whig Party? Where's the fucking Bull Moose Party? Where's the Libertarian Party? Where's the Green Party? Where's any other party than the Republican and the Democrat? And so when you get an outsider like a Trump or a Bernie Sanders, or take your pick of anybody who's not a part of that establishment that the oligarchy has blessed to say, yep, they're gonna do exactly what we want, because it is all about corporate interests and it is all about money is what drives this country. It's not your vote. Don't get it fucked up. Don't get it wrong. So ask me if I'm going to vote this November. Woohoo! I'm going to go down to the polls and I'm going to get my sticker and I'm going to vote Trump 2024. I'm pumped. Can you tell?
Well, I'm going to go down and vote, but I seriously doubt I'll put the sticker on.
Well, yeah, that's just a symbol of your patriotism to say I voted, right? Look at me.
No. I think that's ridiculous.
I think it's stupid as shit anyhow, but whatever.
I still say it should be paper ballots. You should show your ID.
Mm-hmm.
You should have your thumbprint done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And all of the votes should be in, and you should know who the winner is by midnight that night.
Yeah, well, that can easily be done, but they don't want to have it that seamless. They don't really want us to like have confidence in the system. They want to keep people guessing, and that's what's going to happen. So
maybe that's why they didn't ask me.
Yeah.
They didn't ask me what my opinion was.
No, they didn't ask any of us what our opinion is. So don't feel alone. London says, I remember Howard Stern and Don Lemon hammering away on the thing. All of that was scripted 24/7. I was still in California at the height of the madness. This shows people can easily be programmed. Yeah, that was a very man, I just thought, I think the tipping point, not really the tipping point, but like my first inclination was just seeing how like the media had sway over people. And just realizing, you know what, they're showing themselves to be absolute liars. They've exposed themselves for being complete partisans, but people still believe that shit.
See, that's the mind blower.
Well, the real mind blower was like them saying, hey, COVID is a real problem. We need to socially distance and you need to stay home and don't even go over to your family's house at Thanksgiving. And if you happen to, be in another room with somebody, you can pull your mask down while you're eating and then you need to pull it back up. It was like you're going to die. And then the very next week, George Floyd. And then it's like, oh no, get out in the street, get in their face, if you see them at a gasoline station, you get in their face. And there was riots for 3 months where they burned down cities and police stations, all organized and scripted, which in fact, from what I understand, I don't know, this may be going on right now in Chicago. I wish the person that was here from Chicago last week was here so he could tell us. Maybe he's actually worried about what's going on from a standpoint of violence, so he's not joining us this evening or whatever. But apparently, they've had a lot of issues at the DNC already with protests and people protesting Gaza and all the other left-wing causes are coming to coalesce at the Democratic National Convention to produce mayhem, which actually has me a little bit surprised because most of that stuff is organized from the left. Most of that comes through from Soros and all his funding to disrupt and to, cause mayhem in this country. I saw, and I don't know if this is bullshit, but they had like pallets of bricks showing up again, just like they did back at the riots of George Floyd, where there'd just be like pallets of bricks showing up in the middle of the city so that they can start throwing those and busting windows and burning shit. Who's funding that? How's it getting there? I don't know. It's really weird.
It's weird.
It's super weird. But nonetheless, let's see here. Thomas Jefferson, every government. Let's see. Lindsay. Let's see what Lindsay has to say here. It took Cali over a month to declare Kevin Kiley from Placer County the winner. Yeah. There's no reason that should be the case. They should be able to figure it out real close, like to the election. But I understand there's absentee ballots and stuff. That's actually appropriate for people who have, military exemptions and, special circumstances. I still think that they should have that kind of provision for people. But they've made it to the point where, you don't even have to leave your house. We'll come pick up your shit or we'll leave a drop box in your community. I think I got a mosquito biting me or something. So I feel like I'm getting bit up.
It's because you're so sweet.
That's not what it is. Not at all. But there's got to be a better way, guys, to the election. I think that I'm not the only person who has question about it and feels as though, I don't have 100% confidence that they aren't trying to do their level best to give us a result that all of us can be proud of. It's almost as if they want people to fucking just, disbelieve the result no matter what happens. If Biden wins, people are going to be like, oh, he cheated. If Trump wins, oh, it was the Russians or whatever, they're going to come out with some bullshit. And we can't just have a fair election that people feel good about anymore. We're in a really weird time,
Mm-hmm.
So let's see here. I'm voting regardless when the state turns blue. Yeah, our state is blue, but see, I even question that because they've already created this environment that people just expect certain states are off the fucking thing, right? That, Trump's not even going to come here because, he's polling behind or whatever, but that's not really what reality is. The reality is actually what happens on voting day, how many people show up for a given candidate. But since they're so good at already knowing where the votes are going to be coming in from, because they've got drop boxes and they've got, various mechanisms for their tomfoolery, it's been a machine for a long time, man. The last landslide here for a Republican, I think, was Ronald Reagan. And I think they probably vowed at that point, hey, we ain't letting that shit happen again. So they don't even contest California.
They should.
No, I think he'd actually have the most votes. I could be wrong on that, but
I think he does probably have the most votes.
Yeah. London says you need ID to buy beer, cigarettes, but in some states, no ID is noted to vote. That's not by accident. That's by design. That's to muddy the waters and make it easier to cheat.
Yeah, no picture ID.
Mm-hmm. Josh Mitchell in the House says every government degenerates when trusted to the rulers of the people alone. Let me read that again. Every government degenerates when trusted to the rulers of the people alone. Huh. Yeah, that's coming from Thomas Jefferson. Yeah, Gavin Newsom. I didn't even want to talk about that guy, but he brought it up, so we'll talk about it. I remember Gavin Newsom on TV telling people to whisper at the dinner table. Yeah. I don't remember him saying that, but I do remember him talking about, you need to pull your mask down and then put it back. And I was just thinking, what an asinine thing to say.
And then being spotted at a restaurant.
Yeah.
With no mask.
He got busted like at the French Laundry. It was some kind of a swanky restaurant that he got busted and it got out. And, he's got no answer for that other than trying to backtrack. But yeah, what's up, Tim Riley in the house?
Good evening.
Let's see here.
I don't know if Hogs ever answered if he sells hogs.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know where. Yeah, she asked the question. Yeah, we could only be together for 2 hours outdoors at Thanksgiving. And it was a weird time, man. We never stopped. We still did our thing here, man. We've always had Thanksgiving for since we've been here since 2000. So going on 24 years now, we've done Thanksgiving here, inviting families from her side and my side. And they come together here at our house for Thanksgiving every year. And some years we've had large gatherings. Some years we've had smaller gatherings. I think our smallest gathering was 12. And,
I think it was smaller than that. I think it was 8.
Yeah, maybe, but
I think our largest was about 35-ish,
yeah,
around there.
Yeah, somewhere around there. We usually get about 20 plus people here and stuff, but we never stopped during that COVID thing. There was people that chose not to come because, they were concerned about their health and decided to opt out, which is, that's their choice, whatever. But we didn't stop, and we weren't walking around with fucking masks. That's ridiculous. You're out of your mind.
Well, we also were on the Pacific Crest Trail for a chunk of that. So
yeah,
we didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And nobody on the trail worried about it.
No, that was a really great time. It's a really great time in 2021. 2020 was cool too. We hiked then too. During the height of the thing, and people were just freaked out. And that's one of the reasons why we decided to section hike. It's because we didn't want to impose upon other people, and we wanted to self-support ourselves, because nobody's picking your ass up, man. You weren't getting no trail angels to be like, you'd be out there trying to hitchhike, right? And they'd be like, yeah, I ain't fucking picking you up. Oh, me dirty, stinky hiker with
Trust me, you're stinky.
with COVID. But yeah, so yeah, it's all good, man. Let's see. Hog says, I used to raise them, but I've been out of it for several years now. Right on. Hogs are cool. They're tough to keep in, obviously, as you would well know. They are tasty little critters. Love me some pork.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bacon and all that.
I know. We need to buy a hog.
No, we got plenty of hogs still, don't we? Are we getting through that already?
You want some bacon?
Are we all out of bacon?
Yes.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
Sausage?
Oh.
You just ate the last this morning.
Oh, we need to buy a hog. Not good. Right on. Well, yeah. I don't know. Do we have anything else we want to talk about around here? We've just around our place, man. What I'm noticing is we're kind of coming to the end of our summer harvest. And so I pulled out the remainder of the corn today. And I don't know if you're cooking any of that tonight or maybe tomorrow, but we're going to be eating the last of our summer corn. And I'm just trying to get our beds transitioned into something that's going to resemble a fall bed. And so, on the homestead, you can either, as with most things, you can either be behind, you can be ahead, or you can be somewhere right where you want to be. And right now, I would say that I am somewhat behind where I want to be. But I will be able to get myself caught up here to speed in the next couple of days, and I'll be working on doing some more stuff outside. But man, it's just a constant battle to just maintain a place, you know?
You wait for the stuff to come in. It all comes in. You're hurrying to preserve it or put it up in some fashion. And then you're at the lull of it.
Yeah.
Where it's starting to go down. So
right. Well, that's kind of where we are, guys. I think we are gonna bail on you guys tonight. We are going to get out of here a little bit earlier, but as I said, for those that joined us later, we'll probably be moving this broadcast to 5 p.m. just for our own convenience, because we can go on earlier. It's not a problem. There's nothing that prevents us from doing so. And so that's probably what we'll do moving forward, is doing this at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is going to give us a little bit more time to take care of some evening chores and eat dinner and then get into bed at a reasonable hour. Because as I said, we are aging now and we need our sleep. It's very important for our health. You're looking at me like I'm saying the wrong thing here.
I think you should speak for yourself.
You're looking at me like I'm in trouble. Yeah, right on. Thanks, Hogs. And we will have a good week. I appreciate the support on the channel. Like I say, that's, I think, one of the reasons why we do that, at least from my perspective, is not because we're, making a bunch of money at selling this few items we got in the farm store, but, it's a way to kind of have something to offer up to the community that if you want to support the channel in whatever way might suit you, whether it be some comfrey or some soap. And we're actually going to be adding a few items here when I get less lazy to just add some more stuff. She's actually got some things on the docket that we could probably be adding, one of which is some deodorant, which I've been using. We've had some sent out to London. He seems to like it quite a bit. And I think it's just a really good thing to do, man, to eliminate those bullshit chemicals that we wind up putting underneath our arms and our lymph nodes and all of the things that we just accept as like, oh, it's from the Food and Drug Administration. And then we're smearing aluminum underneath our armpits, So I haven't had the need to use any other kind of deodorant. I've been using yours and I don't smell like I haven't been using deodorant. So.
Right. It doesn't stop you from perspiring.
Right.
But it does seem to control the odor.
Yeah. Quite a bit. Yeah. London says that the deodorant works great. And yeah, she's still working on maybe putting something else together for your lovely bride there. And we'll get it up on the website here when I get my act in order. Mm-hmm. And then we'll kind of move forward from there. But appreciate that. So anything else you would like to add for this evening's broadcast, Rebecca, before we leave these fine folks and reconvene elsewhere?
I don't think so. I was hoping Hogs was still selling hogs.
Oh, yeah. We could have bought some hogs from Hogs. That's right. Yeah, I didn't think of that. But you know what? We could have hooked you up, man. We'd have come up and bought some hogs from you. Keep it local, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Anyway, that's where I was going with that. That's why I asked the question.
Right. Yeah. I just like raising them and eating them. I don't really like breeding them. I'm not into the business of like trying to do that because, man, they're fucking like hard to keep in. And I don't want hogs running around my property.
They're kind of fun.
Oh, they're super fun. I love them, but keep them in a nice spot. And they're cool.
Do you remember the one that our son had? I believe it was Missy was her name.
Yeah.
She would stand underneath the steer when our daughter was out washing her steer.
Yeah. Good night, London, and all that joined us tonight. Elusive and Scanes and everybody else who popped in. Appreciate the support. And we will be uploading this to Spotify. Again, if that's someplace you want to go to hear the rebroadcast without any commercial interruptions. And again, I don't put a lot of commercials on these because it's really not what it's about. I think I might put one commercial in the middle of the thing. And then, of course, they got the commercial in the start, but we don't make jack shit on these things. I'm still blown away by the amount of money that short has brought in. I mean, 1 million views. And I've gained over 1,000 subscribers just on that. But the problem, let me just point this out. The problem
Before he goes on a tangent, I'm going to say good night to you all. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, right on. The problem with the subscribers generally that you get from shorts is there may not be long-term people that actually like your other content. They might just be coming there just for the shorts. And there's not a lot of engagement from the standpoint of community engagement. And that's what I look for. That's why I like these, these live streams, right? As a way to kind of get on and sound off and people can chime in and stuff. And that's what's more meaningful to me than just, bagging a bunch of subscribers where it looks cool or whatever. I got so many subscribers or whatever that never interact with you because that doesn't mean jack. But where the rubber hits the road is right here where I get to talk to you guys and hang out. But anyhow, I'm going to punch out as well. So thanks again for joining us tonight, guys, and we'll see you next week.